What's good, you guys? You know who it is, man. It's your boy, Mr. Relentless Lex, and I'm back like I never left this mother. Yes, sir. Ski. Hello, somebody. All right. So, man, you guys, we got P. Diddy. I got to start back calling him P. Diddy, bro. I can't call him the butt monster no more, bro. It's a big win for the music mogul, P. Diddy, bro. We can no longer call him the butt monster. Oh, man. I'm going to miss saying that to you guys and having y'all laugh about it. But, hey, man, you know what? The good part about it is the brother was innocent until proven guilty. It looked like he's probably going to be going home any day now. Some of the charges have been dropped. The other charges shouldn't be that serious, so they at least let him out of jail. But they dropped all the racketeering charges, from what I understand. Hopefully, I'm not wrong. I haven't done my research today. I'm just now getting behind the scenes, you know. But we're going to check it out. Let's go.
Dan Abrams. Dan, thank you for taking the time to be with us. What is your reaction, especially on this count one racketeering conspiracy, Sean Combs not guilty?
Look, this is a win for Sean Combs. This is a
Hey, yo, free that boy Diddy, man. Free that boy Diddy. I know I was the main one to say, lock Diddy up. I ain't gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. Before everything started, and y'all know y'all been the same way, bro. Don't act brand new. Be 100 with yourself, though. If you was the one that say, hey, lock his ass up, lock him up. I was one of the ones. But now, I'm like, yo, free that boy Diddy, man. After doing the research and seeing everything unfold, he was just one freaky ass nigga. That's all that was.
No matter how you look at this case, there was almost no chance he was going to be acquitted of the transportation for the purposes of prostitution counts. Now, when you looked at all the evidence, all the records, all the documents with regard to those counts, it was hard to imagine how he would have been acquitted of.
Bro, that's a beautiful day. Trust me and believe me, bro. Trust me and believe me. For the kids' sake. Look at the smiles on their faces, man. A couple of weeks ago, they've been walking out of the courtroom hearing all the allegations and everything. Now, you got his mom coming out the courtroom giving the thumbs up. The kids are smiling. Daddy coming to the crib.
Those charges.
They got King Combs out there dancing with his girlfriend on the sidewalk. Man, it's a beautiful time right now for them.
The fact that he was acquitted of all of the most serious charges is a big win. And let's talk for a moment about the racketeering charge. What, yesterday they were so incapable of reaching a unanimous verdict. They said that people, I forget the exact wording about the language that they used to talk about the divide on the jury. And then they come in and within an hour, they've got a unanimous verdict on it. It just shows you that judges sending the jurors back can work. Jurors will tell the judge, oh, we're hopelessly deadlocked. The judge will say, go back, go back. Well, in this case, it was pretty easy. But look, headline is, this is a big win for Sean Combs.
Absolutely. Unpersuadable is what they said yesterday in the 4 o'clock hour before they go home. And then 9:52 this morning, less than an hour into deliberations, they have a unanimous verdict. Dan, what was it, in your opinion, Cassie Ventura's testimony? I remember Elizabeth talking about just how emotional it was in the courtroom when she was on the stand. And yet, not guilty is the verdict the jury finds. What is it about the defense that apparently spoke to the jury where they felt that she was not a victim of sex trafficking?
Right. I mean, look, you needed coercion and force, right? And I think that there was enough consensual activity, consensual relationships between Jane and Cassie, such that the jurors didn't feel that there was proof beyond a reasonable doubt
Thanks.
that this was sex trafficking, even though you only needed a single instance, right? As the judge told the jurors and the prosecutors told the jurors, if they were convinced of just one, even if the rest of them were consensual, that would have been enough. Jury didn't believe that existed. Look, this is a classic, I would say, compromise verdict, but when you view it as a compromise, it doesn't quite do it justice at how big a win it is for Sean Combs.
And Elizabeth, as you're standing outside the courthouse right now, I know we just had video of members of Diddy's family leaving. this was not a trial where you saw like a Luigi Mangione crowd of supporters outside every day. What are you seeing right now with the news of these verdicts coming in?
Yeah, well, as you guys can see behind me, I don't know if you can see behind me that, but we see a Cadillac Escalade or a Ford Escalade. I can't name what cars that is, but you see a large black SUV behind me. We have two vans behind me. The two Sprinter vans are obviously going to be holding in the Combs family. And all I can see right now, Chris, is just a crowd of people, both press and the public, just crowding around. Their cell phones are out, their cameras are out. Some people are standing on what looks to be ladders, or at least kind of those metal barricades. And I see obviously some in security, some even kind of standing in the roadway. I hope they're not necessarily blocking any traffic, but I did hear an audible kind of exclaim when the family did come out. Obviously, everybody who's watching at home, Sean Combs is not coming outside of the courtroom at this moment right now. We do not see him or anything like that. He's still back in a holding cell while both sides kind of work out what they're going to be saying in their arguments later today about Sean Combs' bail application. But from what I could see, the SUV, the Sprinter van, it's crowded. It is a whole bunch of people really probably trying to get a glimpse of the Combs family, get their reaction after this verdict was read out loud today. And so it's really kind of a pretty packed scene outside there, as people are just waiting to see what the family's reaction is, as they are pretty pleased with today's verdict. Obviously, they would have liked probably for him to be acquitted on all counts, but in terms
Chris,
of just the verdict that was rendered today, it seems like the family is pretty pleased.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, Chris, I was just going to say that I think the answer to your question about why there's not this sort of groundswell of support out there is because he's admitting, his lawyer's admitting he did bad things, right? This isn't one of these cases. This isn't one of these cases where it's a question of did he do it or didn't he do it? We know he did it. We know he did really bad things here. The question is, did those really bad things fall into the legal definition of sex trafficking or racketeering? And the jury believes the answer is no. But that doesn't mean that he's going to get the kind of groundswell of support that someone who people believe is literally innocent, falsely accused, might get in a different kind of case.
And you've even seen, and Dan, I know you covered the OJ trial. I mean, OJ Simpson found not guilty, but no one up until his death had, for the most part, pretty glowing things to say about OJ Simpson in hindsight of how that played out, even though there was a not guilty verdict.
Thanks.
I'm just thinking of OJ. I think of Johnny Cochran, one of the great defenses of all time. As you've covered a lot of high-profile cases, where does the defense that Sean Combs got in this case rank?
Well, it was a very good defense, but they also had good legal arguments to make. I mean, they had the fact that Cassie and Jane were in these long-term relationships with him. They had the text messages, which were very positive and at times glowing and loving, which I think helped him a lot. You had the fact that racketeering is a complicated case where you need more than one person, you need more than one crime, et cetera. So it's not really quite apples to apples, right? In a murder case as you had here.
And then just lastly,
yeah, go ahead.
I'll let you go. Law and Crime founder and CEO Dan Abrams. Always good to have you on. Thanks for taking the time to be with us.
Great to be here. Elizabeth, great job, guys. Appreciate it.
We appreciate that.
Elizabeth, great coverage in the courtroom too. Love it.
Absolutely.
Shout out to Elizabeth, for real.
I will go to you right now. Let's break down these arguments here, because you have Diddy's defense is saying that he should go home today, that this is not guilty on the majority of the counts, the most serious counts. He should walk out of here. The prosecution is not saying that. As you take a live look at the media that is outside of the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. What can we expect today when it comes to the arguments for what happens next to Sean Combs?
Well, what we can expect is that the defense is going to really be adamant about letting Sean Combs out today. He has a lot of money to post what they have been proposed as a $1 million bail, have some of his family members be able to kind of co-sign off that, and for him to just walk out of that courthouse today. I have to kind of really emphasize that today. He did not want to go back to MDC. Whenever the judge was like, I am sure that Sean Combs doesn't want to go back to MDC, he was shaking his head at the defense table. A lot of people were kind of chuckling in the gallery today. But as far as just like the the arguments that the defense initially made. Mark Agnifilo making these arguments as his voice was shaking a little bit, probably because he was pretty happy with the verdict. He stood up and he was like, he should be released on conditions. He should be able to return to Star Island in Florida. And Mark Agnifilo saying that we still have his passport, that being Tinny Garagos and Mark Agnifilo, but if he is released on bail conditions, that they should be able to return that passport over to pretrial services. They really were talking about how Sean Combs has been acquitted on sex trafficking, on RICO conspiracy. They even pointed out that his plane is currently in Maui, Hawaii, and that he doesn't have access to his plane. And so Mark Agnifilo says his family can sign onto the bond. Again, they were proposing $1 million. He should be released today. And their proposal was that Sean Combs could walk out of the courtroom and that his travel be limited to Florida, Los Angeles, and New York City. Whereas the government opposed that application. Maureen Comey making these arguments on behalf of the prosecution. The government was saying that Mark Agnifilo was really kind of downplaying Sean Combs' conviction because everyone, just remember, he is still convicted on 2 counts. That, again, we have to kind of emphasize being transportation to engage in prostitution, also known as the Mann Act. The government also pointing out there's been extensive testimony regarding drugs throughout this trial. They also point back to the day of his arrest or the evening of his arrest when he was caught at the hotel with drugs inside his hotel room, red lighting equipment, something that they say kind of alludes to that there might have been a hotel night or a freak off occurring at the time that he was arrested. The prosecution also pointing out that his conviction suggests that he should be detained and that the defendant should be detained until sentencing. And so the judge asked, do you have any kind of case law about someone being held on a Mann Act charge pending sentencing? Maureen Comey says for the most part it had to relate to children, and so she didn't have anything in relation to adults.
Okay, well, there you go. The Mann Act law, whatever. It had to be something concerning kids. There's nothing concerning kids. Let that man go home, bro.
Being transported over state lines,
bro.
So she's going to look up that case law. Obviously, the defense is going to come back. They're going to have their arguments, probably kind of what we had heard earlier. So they're going to take a few hours to kind of work everything out. They're going to send back a letter or an email, and then we'll all kind of reconvene early this afternoon to discuss what's going to be happening next. But no, Sean Combs did not walk out of that courtroom, everyone. He is still being held inside the courthouse right behind me. It seems like, from what I could tell, his family kind of probably maybe went to go celebrate or something like that, maybe go get a bite to eat, probably really take in that it's possible their father might be coming home today. But again, it's possible. Nothing set in stone just yet.
And we just have a statement coming in from the lawyer for Cassandra Ventura. This is from Doug Wigdor. And he said in a statement, this entire criminal process started when our client, Cassie Ventura, had the courage to file her civil complaint in November 2023. Although the jury did not find Combs guilty of sex trafficking Cassie beyond a reasonable doubt, she paved the way for a jury to find him guilty of transportation to engage in prostitution. He continued, this is in a statement that was released to CNN, by coming forward with her experience, Cassie has left an indelible mark on both the entertainment industry and the fight for justice. Exemplary courage throughout this trial and brought attention to the realities of powerful men in our orbit and the misconduct that has persisted for decades without repercussion. I remember, Elizabeth, you talking about how emotional it was in the courtroom during Cassie Ventura's testimony. Just what's your reaction when you saw the not guilty verdict related to the charge of sex trafficking with Cassie Ventura?
I was a little surprised. I'm not going to lie to you, Chris. I was a little surprised, especially to count 2, not necessarily surprised on count 4, but I think probably and likely a question that went through those jurors' minds is probably the relationship and how long the relationship lasted. I will say that and I said this to Jesse yesterday too, that the jurors were really paying close attention to both sides' closing argument, especially Mark Agnifilo's closing argument, where I kind of think that they really listened to what he had said in terms of just, by the government's definition, by the federal law's definition of sex trafficking, it only has to be one instance. And so when Mark Agnifilo is getting up there in his closing argument and saying, okay, well, they did 75 different freak-offs, and then it's just that one instance that makes it number 76, and then that all of a sudden becomes sex trafficking, maybe the jury really kind of listened to that and really kind of took note of that. And maybe they kind of were like, okay, well, when the breakup happened, was it because of these freak-offs? Was it because of these, hotel nights or whatever. Again, hotel nights is something Jane calls it. Cassie called them freak-offs. But whether or not that was the reason that the relationship ended, because according to the testimony, it seemed like the relationship ended because of possible jealousy, because of another woman, and it didn't seem like their relationship ended necessarily because of the freak-offs. But also remember, Chris, that yesterday the jury asked some very pointed questions about different instances involving Cassie, either at the Intercontinental Hotel, over at Cannes Film Festival, her interactions with Daniel Phillip. And so I was thinking, okay, maybe it's possible they were going to come back with guilty on sex trafficking, but it obviously didn't go that way today. And so I think as far as just their verdict, I do respect their verdict. These jurors were listening to the exact same testimony I was listening to. Obviously, they saw some exhibits that we weren't keen on seeing or anything like that. But I think maybe consent was really a topic of discussion as far as, she kept on the relationship. Yes, while it was on and off for an 11-year period, but she kept on the relationship even after these instances of violence, even after doing these freak-offs that she says she didn't want to be doing. And so maybe they were like, okay, well, maybe at the end of the day, their huge kind of takeaway was possibly consent being kind of at the heart of the issue.
Yeah, we'll hear what the jury has to say when they begin to speak to members of the media. I want to bring in the other members of our panel. Mina Sewat-Lona, SiriusXM host, also joining us live now, as well as William Corman, who is a criminal defense attorney. Thank you both for being with us, and Elizabeth Milner also standing by outside the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. William, just from a standpoint, and as people are joining us right now, kind of digesting everything, so I am asking a few questions that we've touched on just in the last 20 minutes or so. But as far as the what happens now part of it, when Sean Combs is sentenced, how likely is it that he goes to federal prison on these 2 counts?
That's the $64,000 question right now, isn't it? I mean, these counts do carry with it the possibility of prison time. It wouldn't be unheard of for someone to go to prison on these types of charges. However, he has no criminal record. He has no criminal past that he's been convicted of. But one of the things the government said when the bail argument first reared its head, and again, we'll hear more about that later on, is there was continued criminal conduct even after the charges took place. So this isn't someone who has lived a law-abiding lifestyle for everything but for these cases. I mean, as you mentioned a little while ago, when he was arrested, he had drugs on him. There was post-charge conduct. So there's all sorts of things that the government can rely on to say, hey, look, he was found guilty of these 2 offenses. They are federal offenses. He was found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. They carry with it the possibility of federal prison. And for somebody like this, who has flouted the law, he should go to federal prison. His lawyers obviously will argue in the other direction. But again, I think it's possible that he goes to prison. I don't think he's going to max out. I don't think it's going to be a 10-year federal prison sentence. But it's possible that the judge decides that not staying at the MDCC is enough, and he actually needs to go to a federal facility somewhere else in the country.
And Mina, I'm going to bring you in just a moment, but I just got a super chat question that I'm going to ask William here. State Boys Louisiana asks, will Diddy be a sex offender now?
I don't know that transportation. Oh, it's a violation of the Mann Act. So yes, I think he would be considered a sex offender. I think there is a mechanism in place by which he could challenge that classification. But I do think that violation of the Mann Act carries with it sex offender registration.
All right, Mina Sewat-Lona.
Bro, you know what? The crazy thing about it, speaking on sex offender, in the state of South Carolina law, right? You can, if you get caught using the bathroom outside, you have to go down as a sex offender or pedophile or something. It's one of them, either a sex offender or pedophile. If you get put in the paper, in that little paper book, it's like $1 or something like that. If you get caught using the bathroom outside with nobody else around you, and somebody see you getting charged, bro. For real. You better keep your stuff in your pants.
Joins me now, a host on SiriusXM. Thank you for taking the time to be with us as we break down and kind of digest this verdict and everything that went down this morning. What is your reaction to what the jury found Sean Combs guilty of and not guilty of?
I think we kind of saw some of it, but I am, to be honest, a little surprised at the not guilty verdict for Cassie Ventura when it comes to the sex trafficking. We've talked extensively about the receipts and the different evidence that the prosecution presented when it comes to the transportation of the prostitutes, right? I feel like that was pretty solidified. We have talked about the RICO and how if you really follow the RICO according to the law, yeah, they proved their case, but did they really prove it to this panel of 12 jurors who are not well versed in the law? And did they prove that there was an organized criminal enterprise here? I thought that was a little up in the air, but I really, really thought because of that video, I thought that video was so powerful as evidence. That Cassie was forced back into a room. Sean Diddy Combs is naked in this video. They're in a mid-sex act. She is running away for her life. She's being kicked in the head and dragged back to the hotel room where a security guard testified that there was an escort in there. She clearly in that moment did not consent to that sexual act. And I was very surprised that the jury could vote not guilty on Cassie Ventura, being that there's a video in where she's clearly not consenting to sex.
Bro, how can you say that, man, when you wasn't inside the room? You don't know why she was running. Of course, what Diddy did was wrong. Of course, he was brutally beating her, but we wasn't there. You don't know exactly why she was running. And I'm pretty sure that security guard don't know exactly who was in the room. You don't know if that person was there and left or left and came back or anything. You can't say that, bro. You wasn't in the room with them. So, I mean, the man is, hey, listen, the innocent are proven guilty. And I'm pretty sure they went through extensive enough details to figure out some of them counts should be dropped.